Welcome to Bizworld. I'm Adrian Seet. MIDF research is maintaining its forecast of Malaysia's GDP growth at 6% for 2022 as the country begins its transition to the COVID-19 endemic phase today. The reopening of international borders is one of the significant growth catalysts for the second quarter and beyond. The research firm also foresees the ringgit to appreciate towards 4 ringgit 9 cent by year end. On commodities, it anticipates the prices to remain elevated in the second quarter as the share price performance of commodities-linked companies has begun to match the rise. Meanwhile, high inflation could limit spending as prices of goods have been increasing, driven by both supply constraints and growth demand. A total of 346 funds from 19 fund management institutions, FMIs, were approved under the Employees Provident Fund, EPF Members Investment Scheme, MIS. From that, 202 funds are qualified to be offered to EPF members. Of the funds qualified, 159 funds are local funds, of which 80 are equity funds. These funds were evaluated annually based on EPF's established criteria approved by the Finance Ministry. Under the EPF MIS, members are given the option to invest up to 30% of the amount in excess of their EPF Account 1 savings with the FMIs. AirAsia is optimistic to achieve at least a 95% load factor of pre-COVID-19 levels by year-end, supported by the border reopening. According to its Chief Executive Officer, Riyad Samad, it is also backed by reaching almost 60% average of total passengers across its 12 inbound flights today.
Load factors, usually we look at about 80 to 90%. We will reach that point, but I don't think it's going to be in the next couple of weeks. But hopefully by year's end, we should at least reach 95% of our pre-COVID levels in terms of load factors, hopefully.
He was speaking to reporters after the welcoming ceremony of inbound flight from Jakarta to Kuala Lumpur earlier today. The plane carried 140 passengers out of its total 180, which showed an encouraging gesture from the customers on the first day of flying internationally. Meanwhile, AirAsia hopes to complete its cash refund or credit in less than 2 months, involving 7.6 billion ringgit since 2020. Touch and Go TNG Group aims to disburse up to 300 million ringgit by year-end via its newly launched digital personal loan facility, GoPinjam, offered via its e-wallet. Group Chief Executive Officer Effendi Sharul Hamid said the new product offers personal loans from as low as 100 ringgit to 10,000 ringgit, with repayment periods ranging from 1 week to 12 months at a fixed 8% interest per annum.
Is a product that is targeted towards the underbanked, underserved, low income. It's also a product that we hope people will come as first-time borrowers so that we can actually teach them what it takes to borrow responsibly. That's how the product is set up.
The new product was launched by Finance Minister Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz. Mobile banking transactions in the country nearly quadrupled to 800 billion ringgit last year from 203 billion ringgit in 2019. With 47 non-bank e-money issuers in the country, e-money transactions also grew nearly threefold to 51 billion ringgit last year from 18 billion ringgit in 2019.
This live stream, and thanks. Oh boy, are we so excited to see the country on it. Thank you so much.
Malaysian manufacturers reported a near stagnation of operating conditions at the end of the first quarter of this year. IHS Markit said both output and new orders moderated for the third month running and faster rates. Companies often attributed weakening demand conditions to rising COVID-19 cases and higher input prices, with manufacturing capacity limited to supply shortages. Following the first acceleration in input cost inflation since last December, businesses raised their output charges at the sharpest rate since April 2021. Additionally, companies also reported that COVID-19 infections and rising raw material prices had weighed on demand and client confidence in domestic and international markets. New export orders were also muted in March due to container shortages and subdued overseas demand linked to the pandemic. That's all the time we have for Bizworld. I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for watching and stay safe.